I'm Patricia, and this is Investigating Vegan Life with Patricia Kathleen. This series features interviews and conversations I conduct with experts from food and fashion to tech and agriculture, from medicine and science to health and humanitarian arenas. Our inquiry is an effort to examine the variety of industries and lifestyle tenets in the world of vegan life. To that end, we will cover topics that have revealed themselves as common and integral when exploring veganism. The dialogue captured here is part of our ongoing effort to host transparent and honest rhetoric for those of you who, like myself, find great value in hearing the expertise and opinions of individuals who have dedicated their work and lives to their ideals. You can find information about myself and my podcast at patriciakathleen.com. Welcome to Investigating Vegan Life. Now let's start the conversation. Welcome back. I am your host, Patricia, and today I am sitting down with Lisa Gawthorne. She's the co-founder and author and a vegan athlete. You can find out more about her in the conversation that we have today on her website, www.bravurafoods.com. That's BRAVURA foods.com. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. For everyone listening, I will give you a quick bio on Lisa, but before I do that, a roadmap of today's podcast for those of you that want a little bit of a trajectory. We're first going to look at Lisa's academic, personal, and professional history, as well as her vegan journey, kind of give you a foundation as to how she came to where she is right now. Then we'll turn our efforts into unpacking both Bravura Foods and her book entitled Gone in 60 Minutes. I'll get into some of the logistics about the who, what, when, where, why, how, funding, co-founders, all of that. And then we'll turn our efforts to looking at the ethos and the philosophical endeavors behind Bravura Foods. And then we'll look at the book, as I mentioned, and get into some of the ethos. Is that what it offers its readers and what the wisdom it's meant to impart? We'll also look at areas talking about COVID-19 pandemic and some of the conversation that Lisa may be having with her fellow colleagues or even within herself about the changing reality that is upon us. We'll also look at goals that she may have looking into the future regarding her business and her personal endeavors. And we will wrap everything up with advice that Lisa may have for those of you who are looking to emulate some of her success or perhaps get involved with one of her current businesses. A quick bio as promised. Co-founder of Bravura Foods, vegan entrepreneur, author, and GB athlete, Lisa Gawthorne is a passionate speaker on the topics of veganism, climate change, and animal welfare. Recent appearances include spots on Sky News and BBC. Lisa has been named one of the top most 50 ambitious business leaders in the UK by the Telegraph, and has also been awarded the James Henry Cook Award from the Health Food Institute for her inspiring support of vegan principles in business and sport. The Grocer magazine has also named Lisa as one of the 10 most influential people shaping the plant-based market in the UK. Lisa is also the author of the health and fitness book Gone in 60 Minutes, a bite-sized health and fitness savior sold on Amazon, which is sold out. We're going to get that fixed, Lisa. As I just mentioned, I am an avid reader, but I don't care because I'm going to pepper you with questions anyway, all about the book. But before we get to all of that, I'm hoping that you can provide a platform of your academic life or your personal, professional history, your vegan story, anything that kind of brought you to launching Bravura Foods and writing the book.
Yes, absolutely. And the beauty about that is that it's all very much interlinked as well. So a quick short summary of what I did when I was younger at school and college. I was very good at business and the academic side of things. So I did a business studies degree. Shortly after doing that business studies degree, I knew I wanted to be in the world of marketing. And I set myself up with some really good jobs in the northwest of England where I live, working on some great brands like Chewits, Vimto, Cadbury's, all these great fun kind of kids confectionery and kids soft drinks brands. And did that for a number of years before I actually made the decision around about 2005, 2006. I really wanted to make that moral kind of change and decision to work for a company that had either vegan or vegetarian specific products. Now, having been vegetarian since age 6, and a quick story on that, I actually turned vegetarian at age 6 because I saw a leaflet came through the post, and it basically just explains battery hen farms and also the conditions that cows are kept in. And then it was then that I made that complete connection and said to my parents, is it true, is meat actually a cow? My parents were very open and honest with me and said, yes, this is what it is. Being a strong-willed 6-year-old, I said to them, don't ever put meat on my plate ever again. And they supported me. They were worrying for the first few days, they thought it was a fad, but then they supported me, and we went out and we reconfigured my diet, so to speak. So I'd been a vegetarian pretty much as far back as I can remember. Always with the aim to go vegan. I do a lot of sports, which I'll come on to later on, but I wanted to always go vegan. I was just waiting for the certain amount of products on the market for me to be able to make that change without missing out on key nutrients, etc. So back into the story of the career, in about 2004, 2005, I decided it's really important. I've got quite a strong moral compass. I want to work for a vegan company. So I approached the then distributor of Panda licorice called Cedar Health, and basically just very, very briefly introduced myself to the MD there, who didn't have a job for me, but after interviewing me and seeing how passionate I was about doing things with the brands in the portfolio, he kindly made a position for me there. And then after 2 or 3 years, I worked my way up to being head of marketing in that division. We then merged with another company called BBI Healthcare, and I forged quite a strong partnership with the head of sales, Carl Morris. And together we were growing a lot of the brands together, and we decided, it's time for us to go out on our own, which was back in 2011. We created Bravura Foods with the aim of giving consumers on the UK market a real cool choice of unique, ethical, fun, and great tasting vegan products right across ambient and chilled and every other category in the market that you can think of that we really want to get into and bring more exciting products to the market.
Yeah, I want to climb into that. So I think I understand, but it feels like you offer kind of a multitude, but also niche different services. So on the website, it says that you offer a full sales, marketing, and distribution service for vegan and vegetarian products. And I'm wondering if you can kind of map out for the audience listening what a potential tenure like that looks like. Do you take people who have just launched with a product? Do you take people who are seasoned? Do you take both? And how do you carry them all the way through? Do you put them in retail environments? Do you help them with their online sales? Can you do both? How does all of that work?
Yeah, sure. Great questions. When we first started the business back in 2011, we were solely a distribution business at that point in time, because the actual brand we started off distributing was Panda licorice. You may know that it's quite big in the US as well as being big in the UK. And then from there, that was a platform for us to bring in other distributor products like Freedom Mallows, which is the UK's leading gelatin marshmallow. And then having that kind of portfolio of growing products, we then made that decision to start developing some of our own products as well. So the two divisions actually work side by side. We've got a number of distributor brands that are either in existence in other countries or in the UK that we then take kind of title and ownership of as a brand and do all the sales, the marketing, the PR, the digital campaigns, the logistics, the warehousing. And no matter whether it's a brand that we distribute or whether it's a brand we make via a third-party manufacturer, all of those products are subject to the same retail strategy. We're very, very successful in the UK marketplace with the likes of all the supermarkets, high street retailers, everyone from Holland & Barrett to Tesco to Asda to Boots to WH Smiths, etc. So all of these products, they make the way down that retail chute into the high street and grocery outlets. Since COVID, that's changed slightly in that we are certainly looking more focused into increasing our digital footprint in the marketplace, because a lot of consumers obviously are increasing spend online as well, particularly in the vegan and vegetarian market. So we're looking to manifest that into our future plans as well.
Okay, and let's get into some of the logistics for all of those founders listening and biting at the chomp to know your story. Who's your co-founder? What year did you found it? Did you take funding or did you bootstrap?
Co-founder is Carl Morris, also a fellow vegan. So we've known each other now for about 12 years, worked together for 2 years before going out on our own. We started the business back in 2011. And we did take funds in from the bank at the beginning, but unusually, unlike many other startups, because we were taking the distribution contract from a previous company, we had guaranteed revenue in place across multiple retail structures. So that basically meant that we didn't have to have a massive reliance on external funds, and that it was almost a change of ownership, should we say, from one distributor business to another. So that really helped us out with regards to the early days, because unlike most other startups, we were starting with over £2 million worth of business from day one.
Absolutely. Did you ever consider, were accelerators even around back then? Was there any type of a system that you guys ever wanted to run it through? You had this already proven wealth of income, and I know that angels and things like that are more of a scarcity, in Europe than they are in my hometown of Silicon Valley. However, I'm wondering if there was any of that going on in 2011. I don't know in the UK what the environment was like with startups.
It was definitely not as noisy as it is today. I mean, I think it's fantastic now. Every retailer on the market has an incubator scheme. There's lots of collaborations going on with smaller challenger brands in the UK. Young Foodies is one of them in the UK, which I think is phenomenal. If anyone wants to look that up, Young Foodies is a collection of amazing challenger brands that really are making an impact on in the marketplace. And they are starting pretty embryonic, small kind of growth brands, and they're turning into monster brands within 2 to 3 years. So a really, really good one to follow. So I'd say we didn't really have that many opportunities in the early stages. We did, as we've always have opportunities of external investment from VCs and equity houses and things like that. But we were very, very specific, particularly in the early days, about really trying to hold on to what we'd been building, because we'd been building it in our own minds for many years prior to even starting it. We both have a very positive outlook on life. We're both vegan. We're both about saving the planet. We're both, eco warriors in our spare time. So it was very important to kind of keep that fluidity in the business. And back then, it was also quite difficult to find people, specifically investment that carried those same ideals. Although that has changed somewhat today. You've got Beyond Investment as a great example of that. But there was definitely a scarcity back then of opportunities.
Yeah, and I find that to be true. I was in Ireland about 6 years ago, and I remember thinking it was too few and far between for my blood. I just felt like there's too much echo in the chamber. I'm more comfortable when they're socked in. I'm wondering, do you vet any companies or potential clients that come to you for services? Are there people that you wouldn't find to be a good fit, or have you ever had that issue?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be honest, as we've grown wiser and older with our business efforts, we can't take everyone's product on, because at the end of the day, we've got to maintain efficiency and productivity, and we've got to be able to deliver the service that we're well known for in the industry. So we no longer take on brands that haven't really got a guaranteed revenue stream. So we like to work with brands now that have probably been out in the marketplace for somewhere between 6 and 12 months, have started to prove themselves, and then we can offer them a lot more by giving them scale and mass, by saying we can take you out to bigger retailer structures. We can have our national account management team work with you on joint business plans and sector strategies. We can work with you across digital platforms and look at your marketing plans, and right into operations, demand management, and everything else that comes out of that. We have been approached by some great brands that I personally have wanted to take on, and also Carl in many circumstances. But a lot of them we tend to put back out and say, come back when you've ticked these boxes, etc., and you've done that. Otherwise, it can become quite a messy entity, and it will detract away from dealing with the business that you need to do for your main suppliers and your main key principles over the years as well. So we tend to just say, prove yourself, prove that you've got momentum, and then we'll take over and be your new wheel on the vehicle.
Yeah, I like that. I think that the people who are selective make better pairing. It saves not just yourself, but your client a lot of hardship. And I feel like, VCs are not the only people that should be vetting each other. Everyone should be vetting one another. There should be due diligence on all ends. I want to turn towards looking at your book, Gone in 60 Minutes. I'm going to read a quick summary that we scrubbed from online, most likely Amazon. So it says, banish your old tired health and fitness regimes and explore the only 4 factors you need to shred fat, lose weight, stay healthy, be happy, and get that dream body. This bite-sized book is split into 4 quadrants that can be read in just 1 hour, complete with a perpetual 16-week training calendar, diet management tips, the lowdown on supplements, and a look at how to stay motivated. Gone in 60 Minutes offers the most simple and effective advice to achieve a better body. It's the one health and fitness book you simply can't afford to miss out on. So I'm wondering, first of all, can you tell us when it was published and what your goal for writing it was?
Yeah, sure. I think it was back in 2011 or 2012. Now, the specific aim for me with writing this particular book was that over the many years of me being a member of various gyms, sports clubs, fitness centres, and leisure and health institutes, I was always approached by people asking the same questions over and over again. And it's one of those things, something that happens once is never going to happen again. Something that happens twice is bound to happen a third time. When I was getting into kind of 10s, 20s, 30s of people asking these same questions, I actually thought there's a market here to develop something very simple that saves people going out and having to read 20 different books and subscribing to 18 different magazines, and just puts it in very, very simple terms and specifically aims at everyone who is time poor, because we're all so living in this stressful scenario. No one's got the time to read anything. So hence the book was termed Gone in 60 Minutes, because the whole thing can be read in just 60 minutes. It is a small bite-sized health and fitness savior. It's split into 4 quadrants, and those 4 quadrants were the things that I got asked about the most, and can give a lot of responses to with regards to personal case studies. So the first section is very much about fitness. So it looks at getting rid of some of these myths about cardio being the best thing, and really kind of trying to get people into the whole level of understanding lifting weights is one of the best things you can do for your body, for your metabolism, for your bone bank, for everything else that goes with it. And really trying to break down those myths and barriers that people may have or perceive from the old days of seeing bodybuilders and thinking, oh, if I lift a weight, I'm going to end up being a chunky monkey, so to speak. Right. So there's a section on that. And with that, there's a 16-week perpetual calendar and a full exercise library on the supplementing website. And people can go on and they can do all the workouts. So that's one part. Then the next part tackles diet, which very much is focused on plant-based fitness, and also looks at particularly pinpointing plant-based success in the athletic world. So looking at things like people like Serena Williams, Carl Lewis, just pinpointing them out and letting people know that, you know, you can achieve a lot on a vegan or a plant-based diet. The third section is about supplements, because people always ask what supplements are the best to take for things like everything from energy to better sleep to fat loss, etc. So it kind of covers some of those things. It's not a one size fits all, but it gives some really good advice over things that are being used in personal case studies, etc. And then the last quadrant is about motivation, which is a really important part of the book, and that really hammers home how to stay on track, what to do to keep your fitness kind of fresh, what to do to keep yourself motivated, and how to achieve your goals. And it's just simple stuff that I literally took everything that I have learned that I know has worked for either myself or a lot of people around me, results proven techniques, and just put it into an easy to understand format, rather than trying to baffle people with science and thousands of pages, which I don't think is necessarily needed.
No. And plenty of other people have done that. I'm wondering, we talked a little bit off the record before we started recording, and you're a distance runner. You were explaining to me the specific kind of race that you get into, and I was explaining back to you that I would be very, very bad at said race. And I'm hoping you can kind of elaborate or enumerate on this run, bike, run race format that you're into, and kind of talk to some of the widely held misperceptions and beliefs about, being a distance athlete and a vegan.
Yeah, for sure. So I've always ran, and all my kind of athletic heritage has been in running. My particular favourite disciplines are 5K and 10K running. So at the moment, just to give people an idea, my 5K PB is 18:39. And my 10K PB is 38:48. So pretty fast for what I do. Not the fastest, but certainly not the slowest. But I'm out there proving to people that, you can get on the podiums in these local races. You can better yourself, and you can get fitter, faster and stronger. Saying that, I did have an injury brought probably about 6 years ago, a slight injury with my knee, and part of my rehab from that was to do more cross training, which enabled me to learn the wonderful world of the watt bike. So after investing in a watt bike and a road bike, I did a lot more cycling, and I split my week up. Rather than it being 100% running, I split it up into 50% running, 50% cycling. And I wanted to look for a sport that combined the two, and duathlon was that very sport. So instead of run, bike, run in triathlon, it's run, bike, swim in triathlon. It's run, bike, run in duathlon. So it's a 5K run that I do to start, then 20K on the bike, and then a 2.5K or 5K run at the end. Depends on which distance you do. So I've been representing my age group in Team GB now on both the European and the World Championship circuits for 4 years. I've been everywhere from Canada to Denmark to Spain to Romania. This year I'm set to go to Holland, fingers crossed if it's on, in September for the World Championships. And I think that that's really given me a credible platform to let people see that, first of all, vegans are definitely not weak. We are absolutely full of energy. People come up to me all the time and they say things like, you must take stimulants, you must be on loads of creatine, or you must be on taurine or caffeine. And I don't take any of them. I'm completely stimulant free, have been since 2007. That is a conscious decision of mine. I literally fuel on water. I think it's all I need. Occasionally I'll use isotonics if I'm in a longer race, but I get everything I need from just pure hydration, and don't need to have any of that kind of extra stimulation. And people can't get over that because they say, wow, that is unbelievable that you are surviving on natural energy, and not only surviving on natural energy, but winning races and winning them in really good times as well. So I think that showing people that you can have really high energy levels on a plant-based diet is really important. Letting them see that you're not weak, letting them see that you're strong. I mean, I go to the gym and I can rep as much as some of the men that are in there, and I may only be small in stature and in figure, but I'm strong pound for pound. I'm extremely strong with regards to that. So I think that that's also important as well, to let people see that you're strong, you're full of energy, you're not weak, and that you're not, there's a lot of myths out there that people think, oh, you must be deficient in calcium, or you must be deficient in B12. Well, I have had vitamin and mineral and nutrient tests done every year, because I do it for my own benefit and to make sure that I'm hitting all the right targets with all of my sport and nutrition, sport and fitness side of things. Not once have I ever been deficient in one vitamin. Now, I do take a couple of vitamins during the day, but I've got to be honest, even if I didn't take them, I still don't feel as if I'd be deficient, because there's so many fortified foods on the market now. You've got bread, cereals and milks that are all fortified in vitamin D, B1, B12, etc. You really, really shouldn't feel that you're deficient when there's so many great fortified foods out there. So I think that's a massive fallacy, and something that I'm always keen to let people know. And I think one of the best things that I feel I can do is use this platform as a vegan athlete, as a successful vegan runner and a vegan duathlete, and a vegan cyclist, and let people know that, if anything, it's not about holding you back. It propels you forward, and it can be a massive secret power. And, it's testament to when I go to races, no matter where I am in the world, if I'm running in a vegan runner vest, I do get chants from people saying, go vegan and stuff like that. But I also get people coming up to me afterwards and actually shaking my hands and say, brilliant. Well done for putting it out there and letting people see it, because you're part of a change and you're part of that network that's driving the positive movement. And for me, that is just, it's phenomenal to hear that kind of feedback.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to have positive icons and representations across, all genres. As a woman, as as a vegan, like as everything that you are, as a business owner, as a co-founder. I'm curious on a personal level, like, what do you find the majority of your diet is ruled by? Are you equal? Are you doing grains? Are you doing breads? You mentioned cereals. I love to talk about how fortified everything became because we stripped everything out of it, more so here than in Europe. We stripped our breads of any sort of fiber the second the 60s hit. And so we had to put things back into it, which only made it more fattening. And it's a diatribe. But I'm wondering, for you personally, do you find a certain percentage being vegetables, fruits? What does your diet look like when you're training?
Yeah, it's a good question. In fact, I partnered up recently with plant-based fitness. Now they're on Instagram, and you can check out. They actually did a day in the life, and literally clocked everything that I have in my diet. Because again, it's another question that a lot of people ask: where do you get your energy from? Is it more kind of carbs? Is it more grains? Is it more kind of proteins? I try and eat as much protein as I can on a vegan diet. At the moment, my macro split, for anyone that's interested, is 50% carbs, and those carbs tend to be coming from the basis of oats, barley, rice, grains, quinoa, sweet potato. Then it's 25% fats. For that, I will use things like avocados, nuts, flax, olive oil, things like that. And then the remainder 25% is proteins, and for that I am tofu queen. I love tofu. Yeah. I have tofu with everything. It really does. It's such a versatile ingredient. So you can scramble it. You can have it in stir fries. I have it on salads. I throw it into soups. We make curries with it. It really is a great product. So I'm kind of split between tofu and a little bit of seitan as well, which I've been making from home over the last few months as well. And that's great. Obviously, you can't have that if you're gluten intolerant because it's made from wheat gluten. But again, very, very high in protein. I think it's over 75% protein content to seitan. So fantastic to get that in the diet. And I just make sure that the big thing for me with nutrition is to try and lock onto things that make you feel good. If I have any foods that make me feel either uncomfortable digestive wise, or if they affect my mood in any way, shape or form, I will just cut them out. And very quickly, I'm quite good at reading what works for me, what promotes good energy, what promotes positivity and things like that. And I think that's really important for people to get to grips with that, as well as rotating foods and keeping a varied mix of sources for those foods.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that when you start fine tuning that, you start to play with like the tincture of your livelihood in a way that's so invigorating and powerful.
Totally.
Once you start to have that personal dialogue, everyone's made slightly different, and I love the idea of developing that deeper relationship. And speaking to that, I'm wondering if you've had a personal or professional dialogue amongst colleagues, fellow athletes, or even just yourself regarding the COVID-19 pandemic that's hit. There's a lot of different forefronts here that vegans have engaged on. There isn't a conclusive hypothesis, and this podcast isn't about developing one. It's definitely brought to light wet markets and things that, most vegans have a huge issue with. However, that's not necessarily the only conversation to have. There's a humanitarian thread that I keep promoting that gets brought up, where we need to reanalyze our food source. We need to look at sustainable measures. We need to re-question it. And you can have as many documentaries of What the Fork and Knives Over Fork and all of these, What the Health, all of these things come out. But I think the pandemic is the final, we need to discuss this, as a moment, at least person to person amongst one's own self, have a conversation about whether or not you are signing off on what your food is, what's in it, and where it's from. And so I'm wondering, you personally, so there's mine. I'm wondering, you personally, if you've had any revelations, if you've had a redescription or a reanalysis of your relationship with veganism or anything like that due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Your points are very interesting, and I connect with them a lot because a lot of them are mirrored by things that I've been going through myself. So it's quite interesting. There's certain things that seem to happen in time that make my phone go crazy. And one of those was the Game Changers. When the Game Changers first
Yeah.
came out, my phone went mental. And for weeks, people were getting in touch that I never thought would come near veganism. I'm talking about bodybuilders. I'm talking about big burly men that said, no, it's always steak for me. People that you would never think would want to adopt a vegan diet got in touch with me and said, that's it. I've watched Game Changers. I know what it can do for my health. It's all about my health. And they really wanted to take that on board. Now, for me personally, there is an element of shock there because I'm an animal activist, and everything that I've ever done in terms of my choices for veganism has all been about protecting the animals and all about a better life for the animals. So I always get frustrated a little bit, I can't lie there personally, as to why people don't necessarily have that same affinity, and instead they will be driven by environmental reasons or health reasons. But as I've matured over the last few years, particularly, and seeing the plant-based movement being driven by flexitarians and plant-based eaters as well as vegans, and anyone that's reducing their meat content, I've been a little bit more open to understanding it doesn't necessarily matter what the people out there feel is their source to wanting to go vegan, whether it's because they're worried over health or worried over the animal welfare. As long as they're making positive steps, that's a big thing. And going back to that whole kind of my phone ringing, again, very similar to what you were saying, when this first hit, I did have a lot of people getting in touch with me, particularly on social media, and saying, wow, I didn't even know wet markets existed. It's actually made me think more about animals per se, in terms of cows, in terms of pigs. I want to learn more. Can you tell me what your favorite cheese is, what the best milk is, what the best meat is? And a lot of that kind of came out. Now, the beauty about the world we live in now is it's so easy for me to recommend foods, because if you are a meat eater that really wants the taste of meat, I can recommend brands that taste like meat. If you are someone that doesn't want that, and that you are almost like a raw vegan or a vegan that doesn't want any remnants of meat, I can also recommend things for that. And because there's so many pockets of people that are motivated by different things, it's actually brought around, I would say, a more positive and constructive and holistic movement. So what I've seen is people, as you've said, questioning more and just thinking about food sustainability, ingredients integrity, provenance of food, wanting to know the backstory, well, where has it come from? And I think a lot of people are starting to really now understand and be shocked as well by just how much food travels around the world to get to us here in the UK, as it does probably in the US and everywhere else, when there's no reason why we can't make that on our home ground. So I think we're going to see a resurgence to that over the coming years, in terms of, a resurgence back into domestic manufacturing and doing things closer to home that we can control.
Yeah, and seasonal, eating and things, even as someone who's been in the game for a long time, and I've been under this vegan umbrella for 10 years, and I've been prolific at my studying and researching, hence this podcast. And it's a changing dynamic for me daily. It's a constant conversation. I spoke with someone just recently, a guest on the show, who mentioned, eating seasonally, a chef who said in the UK, she said, it's not the same as the greenhouse grown. Just because we could produce the food year round didn't mean we were meant to, or that it would taste the same or even do the same thing for our bodies. And I love that. I love going back to the reconsideration and the ease that kind of came about in the 70s and the 80s with this globalization of food and how it destroyed economies. And whatever you believe about macroeconomics aside, it did change the structure of how we even perceived food. We just stopped questioning it, where it came from, what it lived like before, who was farming it, what they put on it as they farmed it. All of those things just went away and now are re-emerging. And so, I agree with what you're saying. I'm wondering, as you're kind of moving through this time and this process with, the pandemic is here, and as we hopefully are on the horizon of a vaccine and things of that nature, do you see any changes that you will implement for your business, for your athletic life, or anything like that moving forward, as a result of this?
Yes, absolutely. From a business point of view, it's definitely revealed to us that we need to do more digitally. So we've always been very strong at bricks and mortar level with all the retailers on the high street, and in out of town parks, etc. But we've really kind of always thought we'll get to digital in the future, or we'll kind of do an hour on a Friday, which now obviously we realise it needs to have a dedicated team, a dedicated strategy, and we actually do social media very well. So linking social media into a digital platform, it works well for us. So we've already started the ball rolling on that, and that would be the biggest step change that we'll be seeing going into the future in terms of having more digital presence as a business, and working with other brands as well as our own brands on that. I think personally, COVID, this whole kind of lockdown scenario, for me personally, it's done something for me that actually has been beautiful on a personal empowerment level, but also really useful for sport as well. And it's grounded me. It's made me realize how little I need to survive. It's made me realize just what is important in life. It's made me prioritize better, give myself more time for myself, and really kind of just get to grips with things and make time for things that I haven't necessarily had time for in the past. So just little things like, I'm a keen photographer, I'm a keen reader like yourself, a bit of a bookworm. But over the last 2 years, particularly when business has been so stressful and so fast paced, I've probably read 2 books in a year. I used to read 2 books in a week. It's crazy. So since lockdown, I've gone back to reading a lot. I've gone back to self-education, self-empowerment. Only at the weekend, I was on a self-empowerment circle with 5 other individuals. That was great. We all learned a lot from each other. And it's just made me believe about, life is very short. We should be doing things that really are about positive movements and spreading positive energy and joy. And that kind of fits into the kind of character that I am anyway, because I've always done crystal healing. I've always been a big believer in positive mental attitudes, and NLP and CBT and all those kind of great things that we can use. So I think it's been the one thing I would say, if I had to sum up one word for me personally, I would say I'm grateful.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, that's an amazing thing to come out of, this kind of tragedy. I try to be I'm a little bit more shy with things that I find of beauty or things in this time of, sadness and global despair. And so I'm very tender with it, but I'm not sure that that's the right course. I think that we need hope, and we need to also revel in things like you're talking about, and the humanity behind those things, that unites all of us, and is directly, I believe, in core value with the vegan world, and
100%.
every analysis that it's around. Well, we are out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you, Lisa, so much today. I really appreciate you coming on and giving us your candor. For anyone who wants to follow your Insta, do you have an Instagram or Twitter handle that you prefer?
Yes, I've got Instagram is Lisa_Gawthorne, and Twitter is @Gone in 60 Minutes.
Yay. So everyone, thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on. I appreciate your time and your story and your candor.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And for everyone listening, we've been speaking with Lisa Gawthorne. She is co-founder, author, and vegan athlete. You can find more about her company at bravurafoods.com. And thank you for giving us your time today. I appreciate it. Until we speak again, remember to eat clean, eat well, stay safe, stay in love, and always bet on yourself. Sancha.